Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a book from the Legal Action Group. It's one I've reviewed before in its various editions. This one is called Defending Possession Proceedings. It's this book here. It's in its 9th edition now, and it's being published, as I say, by LAG, who are celebrating their 50th anniversary at the moment. The book's been written by a judge, Jan LUBA, Queen's Counsel, a circuit judge who I've been in front of, and also Anne BEVINGTON, John Gallagher, Sam MADGE-WYLD and Sarah STEINHARDT. As I say, this is an important paperback book for anybody involved in possession actions. And clearly, when the book came out, we were just emerging from COVID, so things have changed quite considerably since that time. I originally looked at the book earlier this year, and I'm recording this in May of 2022. Here's the book here. It's a paperback. There's the spine. It's a heavy book, this one. And there's the back. Now you can probably see there's a shaded version just there, and that shaded version is where you find the appendix, and that actually includes some very useful things like forms and various other things. Then right at the back you've got a very detailed index. This is very much the house style of the Legal Action Group. So at the front of the book you've got the details about all of the authors. Then you've got the front page itself for the 9th edition. Then you've got an important preface. Do read the preface because it gives you an up-to-date view of where we are. The preface was actually written a little while ago. I'm just looking to see the date at the moment, but it's dated December of last year, 2021. And the book emerged, I think, in around about the February time. Then there's a how to use this book. Remember, the book is big. It's well over 1,000 pages long. You've then got, after how to use this book, you've got the contents section, and you can see the contents section set out all the way through. And then what I do like about the book, you've got, of course, a massive number of cases. You've got after the cases, you've got the table of statutes. Then after that, you've got statutory instruments. And then after that, you've got a very useful area. You've got some international legislation at the end, and then you've got the abbreviations. Now, the abbreviations are quite important because this is an area of law where you do need to know what some of these things stand for. I mean, we always remember things, but sometimes you can forget. So it's useful to just check to know, for instance, a classic one, FCA, Financial Conduct Authority. Now, we probably know what it is, but as I say, the abbreviation does help you if you suddenly have just a sort of little block on what you're thinking about. Then you've got the various parts to the book, and it's set out by means of a mini index for each chapter, and that's quite helpful because it tells you what it's got in it for the chapter. And it's a book which is easy to navigate. That's one of the nice things about a lot of the work from the Legal Action Group. It's easy to navigate, and then you get into the book itself. There's an introduction which explains what part 1 is all about, defending possession actions, and it runs all the way through. Now, depending on what you're doing, you should be able to find whatever you want in this particular book. Appendix A has got a checklist, which I also thought was very helpful for anybody having to deal with this stuff themselves. Statement B then, and it's appendix B is statement of cases and applications. And it gives you the various types of form that you need. So hopefully there's a great deal of information in a relatively cheap book, which will be of great assistance, I think, to many people who are having serious problems at this present time. And obviously, as I record this in May of 2022, we are looking at the beginnings of possibly a recession, high interest rates, and difficulties with what is currently termed the cost of living. In other words, people's expectations about how much they're going to earn and how much it's actually costing to live are all going to change with a potential fairly substantial increase in inflation levels. However, let's go back to this book. The title we've given it, and Elizabeth was the lead writer on this, Defending Possession Proceedings, You Need This Book. And that's exactly the position, whether you are doing it yourself or whether you've actually got someone to help you. Obviously, if you're using a lawyer, it's slightly different, but you will find these books in the courts. They're available normally in citizens' advice buildings. They are available in the public reference libraries as well. And LAG is actually an organisation. It's the Access to Justice charity, and its aim is to make the publications easy to read and accessible to the more poorly paid members of our world, of which there are a very large number, because they're the ones who need, normally they need a lot more help than others. So what do we say about the book? We say this: frequently referred to as the Homelessness Prevention Handbook, for good reason, this reliable and long-established work of reference from the Legal Action Group is now in its new 9th edition, and we welcome it. Across more than 1,200 pages, it covers in a comprehensive, thorough and user-friendly fashion virtually every aspect of housing law relating to possession proceedings, specifically those which impact on the 3 main categories of occupier. That's the social housing tenant, the private tenant, and the owner-occupier. And it's an in-depth, breadth and height, so to speak, publication, looking at the scope and the complexity of housing law, which is literally enormous. And obviously, as I record this, we've just had the Queen's speech, where there are proposals concerning the some of the problems regarding possession actions. In fact, the issue concerning no fault evictions and no fault possessions, which I'm not going to go into any great detail, but it's clearly an area which is absolutely outrageous, because at the end of the day you have an agreement as a tenant with your landlord, and those rights should be enshrined. It shouldn't be able to just be taken away as a unilateral declaration, as it were. However, that's for another book. Now, the editor, Jan LUBA, Queen's Counsel, has pointed out with his team of housing experts that the new edition, quote, is more than 4 times longer than the first edition, published in 1987. Housing law in England, the editors add, has become shamefully inaccessible to those who need it most. Hence, at the moment, the pressing need for a new, definitive and ever reliable text, and that's exactly what you're getting here. Certainly His Honour Judge LUBA is extremely well qualified to talk about this area of law, which he of course is a preeminent expert in. And as is explained in this edition, the book is not a treatise on all the relevant law of tenancy and mortgages. Rather, it's a practical book, which is what all the LAG books are, focusing on practice and procedure and the relevant substantive law. And of course you've got a substantial amount of case law involved in the book anyway. It's been at least 6 years since the publication of the previous edition in 2016. This text predictably contains much new material, and there are a few examples here that I'll give you. Discrimination defences and counterclaims, that's quite popular of course at the moment. Welfare benefits for tenants, benefit issues in possession claims, dependents who may lack mental capacity. That again is important because many cases involve people with a mental health issue. It's not understood, never has been really in the past. At long last, the judiciary are getting actually special training, and certainly for members of the bar, we are well aware that a lot of people that we have as clients have got mental health issues, and I think that's therefore an important area to stress. And also we've got such areas of costs for publicly funded dependents, and of course there's a lot more depending on what you're looking for. Notably, the book contains succinct and pertinent commentary on the multifaceted effects of the pandemic, which is summarised of course in the preface, and that's the case with many books today. You're going to find a lot of reference to COVID, during which of course the number of claims, as we saw because of the chaos of the court system, has significantly fallen. However, the editors do warn us the prospect of eviction, particularly for rent and mortgage arrears due to the economic consequences of the pandemic, has for many people been delayed rather than avoided. And that of course has been the problem, and I still believe it is a problem, because I and my colleagues have seen a notable lack of possession action work, and at some stage I think there could well be a very substantial increase in this area of activity. And of course it's a grim reality that when the problem is being delayed rather than averted, it's obviously going to lead to an increase in possession activity in the courts in the immediate future. And we're still waiting to see that development in its full entirety, but clearly that is around. Now, a good thing then that this necessarily large volume, this one here, is so easy to navigate. There's a detailed table of contents at the beginning, some 8 pages long in detail, and then you've got the 100-page index right at the back in the sort of by the shaded area. And of course the how to use this book guide at the beginning I think is very helpful. You've also got paragraphs which are numbered, I'll show you that again in a minute, throughout, so you should be able to find what you're looking for. And there are 140 pages of cases, statutes, statutory instruments, as well as a table of EU and international legislation, which will be with us, depending on your point of view, of course. Brexit and all that lot. The fact of the matter is we still have a huge amount of direct relevance to the European Union and EU law, and that's not going to change, whatever they thought it would do. But that's for another book. Also, you've got the 4 pages listing of abbreviations, which I highlighted at the beginning of this review. And do note, of course, the 2 appendices at the back, which help. I think the actual forms themselves are very useful too, because it's quite daunting initially to understand what to put in these forms. Now, I think, therefore, to summarise, this book is for counsel, that's barristers and solicitors practising in this highly sensitive and complex area of law. So the book is ideal for you. And of equal importance, of course, it's accessible to a general readership, and I think a lot more people will need to know about this book. And therefore, in the tradition of the Legal Action Group, it will be of immense help to those defending themselves in court as litigants in person, therefore unrepresented, against possession proceedings, normally with someone on the other side who's got a lot of money and therefore can afford to employ a lawyer. The date of publication of this book is cited as, I think, round about February 2022, and it's currently linked to the 50th anniversary of the Legal Action Group. Let me just show you the book again. There it is. There's the spine, and then there's the back. And then just opening it in the middle, I mentioned earlier about the paragraph numbering, which you can see on the side, and you can probably see it there. It's quite important to be aware of how the book is structured. You've also got footnotes. Not every book has them, but these have footnotes. And then when you go to the index at the back, you will see the index is referring specifically to the paragraph numbers. And that again is helpful. It's a very big index and actually very helpful. I found this book extremely useful. I remember it in my early days as practicing barrister, and I always found the LAG books to be brilliant for us, and basically beginning our practice at the bar, which was frankly 30 odd years ago a rather different place from the way it is today. But that's the way progress takes over. Can I thank Jan LUBA very much indeed, and all the other people involved in this book, and of course to LAG. You do make our lives a lot easier, and I, for one, and I know a lot of my clients, are very grateful for that. So thank you. Bye-bye.